Okay, so in this part of the video, I'm going to show you how to assemble all the components of a computer. It's going to be a pretty basic computer because I picked up all these parts from my friends who threw them away. I like to use them for projects, so I'll be using those to demonstrate how you put all the computer components together. But before you do anything, I just like to talk about this tool here, or this item here. It's called a static wrist strap. I mean, I have a poor habit of not using these, but whenever you're working on an electronic item, you should use one of these to ground yourself. I've been fortunate so far not to damage anything. I try to use them whenever I can, but sometimes I'm too lazy to dig them out. So you want to get one of these. This one cost me about $3, I think. I have more expensive ones that go for $15, but I think this $3 one would do. So this is how I strap mine on. Some people like to put it on that piece right there on the bottom of the wrist, but I put mine on top like that so it's easy. It doesn't get in the way when I'm working. But as long as there's a metal piece under that piece of yellow square plastic right there that touches your skin, and it goes to the other end where you clip this on somewhere, or sometimes you can remove it. This is what they call alligator clip, and you can stick this in somewhere if you have some little hole that's already grounded, so you can ground yourself that way, or you could stick this back in and clip this onto an area that's ground so you can ground yourself. So with that being said, let's move on to building a computer. The old motherboard that I got from my friend, and it doesn't come with a manual, so the manual tell you what all the settings are, how you set all your switches and where all this stuff plug in. Usually all the information is printed on the board, but sometimes I know in the past I've had it where the boards are not printed correctly, and I try to compare it with the manual, and if they're both conflicting, I'll do more research to figure out which one is correct. But really, when you find a mistake, there's only one board that I build out of maybe 50 computers that are not correct. So when you're building your computer, a lot of people who are buying new boards and all that stuff, motherboards, and building a new computer, they like to work around their motherboard. At least for me, I like to work around the motherboard and the CPU. And so once you have that, then you will buy a case that will fit it and all that stuff. But some people like to build their computer around the case and then find out that the board that they got doesn't fit. For me, I like to go with the board and CPU and then work around it from that. I think it's much easier with that. Lately, I've just been buying used computer parts and picking up used parts. I don't do extreme gaming or anything like that, so I don't need to go with all the fancy stuff. So if you want to build a cheap computer, that's the way to go. So with that said, I like to assemble the case, some of the components on the case first, and I'll get back to this motherboard later on. So let's go there right now. Okay, so I picked up this free computer case from a friend of mine. So it's nothing really nice, but it's not bad either. I mean, you get it for free. There's nothing you can complain about. So the first thing you want to do is, some case come with a power supply, and some case comes without it. So I'm kind of show you one that probably doesn't come with one, and then we'll work from there. So the first thing you want to do, a lot of cases opens up differently. This one, you just need to remove these 4 screws here. So in some cases you assemble it different. This one is more simple. Some cases is a pain in the neck to remove. So let me remove that and show you what's inside. Now that I have the screw removed, most cases would just pull back. You just pull back and then it just comes right off. Most cases work this way. Some are a little bit more different. And on this part of the panel of the case, there's a fan. Some cases have more fans. This one has one. So here you go. There's two sides of it. You slide out the same way and remove it the same way. Okay, like I say, most of them, most case that you buy comes with a power supply, but if it doesn't, you can buy one and put it together. A lot of people prefer not to have one because a lot of times the ones that come with the case is not good enough for what they do. But for the people who are just building really simple a computer, the power supply to come with it should be good enough. So you can just assemble everything. But right now I'm going to show you how to assemble the power supply. So before I show you how to assemble the power supply, I will show you some of the ratings on the power supply. So you buy the ratings that you need. Basic computer is fine, but you having gaming, I think you need a lot of watts to go with it. So choose out the one that you like. This one is good enough for the one that I'm assembling. In fact, is more than what I need. So just want to talk about the connectors on the power supply first. You have a few different type of connectors. So this one is kind of like a hybrid of a new and old, so it's perfect for me to talk about it. For the very, very old computers, you have a different type of connectors, but for most of the new ones now, at least the ones I know of, have these kinds here. I don't really know the name of it, but this is a new kind of connectors, and if you see it on a motherboard, you would know that you had the right one or not, because if you had the wrong one, it wouldn't fit. So don't worry about it too much. I don't know if the new ones, there are ones that are newer than this, but the ones I know so far are like this. Okay, the next connector is the other one I showed you earlier was the power connector to your motherboard. This one here is the power connector to your hard drive and other devices, and these are the older power connectors. Here are the new type of power connectors. Yes, a lot of you might not know this, but this is the power connector to your floppy drive, and a lot of people don't have those anymore. No one uses this anymore. So with that said, let's go ahead and assemble the power supply. This one has a really nice fan built in. So basically, to attach the power supply to the case is very simple. There's these holes here, and they're not exactly perfectly squared, and you just need to align that to the case and screw them on. So it's very simple. So basically, you just line the power supply up where there's a hole opening that fits the power supply to the screws, and then just tighten it up. Some power supplies are on the bottom. Some might even be in the front, if I can recall correctly. But for most cases are on the top end in the back of the computer. With this view, as you can see, this is one hole, this is the other hole, and this is the other hole, and this is the other one. I already put 2 screws on just to hold it, and you just need to put the remaining holes on just to hold it tight. See, so as you can see, it's a little, the screw is a little off, just to so you can align it properly. I think all the locations are pretty much universal. Okay, one thing I'd like to mention also is when you're starting to work on this stuff, make sure you put on open just in case you accidentally plug in the power and then something were to happen while you're working on it. You want to unplug anyway, but I like to be double safe and put this on open. The open is this little circle, the close is this little line here. So if I push on this little line here, it'll be close, and this little circle here, it'll be open. So that's all there is to the power supply. So let's move on to the other components. Well, that's after I put on these screws. Okay, the next few items I want to put in the case first, so it's much easier to do. before you put on the motherboard. This way you don't bang on anything on the motherboard. So this is a DVD-Rom. The old ones usually are just CD-ROMs, but most of nowadays people have DVD-ROMs and rewrite and all that stuff, and all the information is located in here. And for some of you, you might even want to get a Blu-ray. I haven't gotten there yet because I have no use of Blu-ray. So the thing that you need to know about these drives are the pin settings here. You have the power supply connectors here. You have the data connectors here. I don't know if you can see it clearly. Those pins in there, those are the older Ide type. You also have SATA types, but for most part they're IDEs. At least for mine, because I have all the older parts. And as you can see, this little white piece there, that is the pin jumpers to set your different the type of connection that I had to the motherboard, whether it's primary, master, slave, or just single drives. If you look on the drives, oops, not here. If you look on top of the drive, they'll tell you what connectors they are. Most drives contain those connectors. Yeah, here it is. You can see a lot clearer here. So if you can see in the middle right there, the MA stands for master, the SL stands for slave, and then the CS stands for cable select. So I think they select that according to the cables. And they'll tell you the IDE, and you see that 1 and 2 there, that's pin 1 and pin 2. You got to connect those accordingly, otherwise you will burn out the drive. And as you can see there, that's the power connectors there. It aligns up to whatever's on the side right here. So for me, I'm going to set it as a master. If you can see here, the $1 to right is a master. I'm going to set mine as a master because I'm going to have it separate from my hard drive. So if you're going to connect it along with the hard drive, then you want to set it as slave. So there you have it. Those are the settings that you need to worry about for a CD-ROM or a DVD-ROM. Okay, the next item that you have here is your hard drive. And same with the hard drive, DVD-ROM or CD-ROM, you also have settings. And this one also uses the IDE connectors. Like you say right there, that's the setting and the power right there. And if you look on the other back side, you will see, I think I have this backward. You will see that the information that tell you whether it's a slave. I can't zoom in with this camera. Yeah, so that's the setting that they'll show you, and then it lines up right there. So you can tell exactly. So if you can see right there, all the way to the right, I have it set on to master and single drive. So that's the two things you need to be concerned about. So let's put it in the bay and screw it on first, and not connect anything yet. Okay, so I can't show you how each of the drive goes in for all the cases, because some cases go in differently. This one has to be one of the universal ones that could just go right in front. You just stick it in right in front. And then for the drive, it doesn't go this way. It goes through the center here. The bay is a little bit smaller. Make sure you have the other side going in the right way. Let me put it on the bottom bay. So after you have it in there, basically you just align these screws up and you screw it down on both sides. This side here, and then you switch the case around. You also have this side to screw up, so make sure it's secure. And same thing goes with the hard drive. You want to screw it down both this side and also the other side, so that it'll be secure. You don't want it banging around because it'll damage the drives. So let's put on the screws and move on. Okay, so I took a step backward and took the drives out so I can show you this a lot easier. Well, before that though, a lot of people you probably already noticed that I've been holding a camera phone, more like a phone camera, or sometimes I use my other camera also, but I try to attach it to a tripod, but it's not, the angle where it shows is not too good, so I figure, I have it floating around like this is probably easier for me to show you. So this is the Ide Type Connectors. Some of them are, I don't want to say this, but some of the cables are idiot proof. So they have a slot there where they're covered up so you can't mess up the connections. But this one here doesn't have it. So when you connect these cables, you gotta make sure that you're careful and go by the strip here. And in the electronic world, the strip here indicates the pin 1, as I mentioned to you earlier. On one of the drive shows where pin 1 is. So on both strips here, this side here is pin 1. So make sure you know this. This is really important. Otherwise, if you swap them around, you can have power going to data and all that stuff, and you can burn up the drive. And I think, as a matter of fact, I think I did that once by accident on with a floppy drive. And this is also another IDE, and I think this one's a little bit different color because for those who went through the computer building in the earliest stages to now, I think these one takes a higher rate. So if you have a faster drive, you need to use this type of cable, but it's the same basically. If you don't use the right one, it's just data just doesn't travel as fast as I believe it was. I remember, at least that's what I was told. So yeah, this is the one I'm talking to you about. There's I guess I call it the idiot proof, because this one you can't screw up because you see that slot right there is missing, so it lines up correctly. So you can't go wrong if you don't have the pin 1 correctly. It won't go in. So I think the one that I showed you earlier was the older type. So you stick it in wrong, you could mess up the computer. And okay, this next one I'm showing you is the newer data type called SATA, one of those. So this one also has a slit. I don't know if I can show you this angle, so you can't screw up either. So this is the new type that goes in, but the one that I'm assembling is not this type. I just want to show you the different kinds that they have. They may already have some new ones, I don't know, but just like to share this with you. So with that said, let's put back the drive and screw it on. Okay, so before I put in the hard drive, I already put in the CD-ROM drive. I'm going to show you how to put in the cable, so this way you don't, you basically can't screw it up, but I'm going to show you this, so it's better for you to connect it before you put it in. This way it's easier. So with that said, according to this diagram here, pin 1 is the wall went all the way to the right. So what I would do is, let's see, I'm sorry, I only got one hand. As you can see with the strip there, that's where your pin 1 is. So you want to stick that in there. So that's basically it. The other end goes onto your motherboard. Same way. You have pin 1 here that goes onto the board where pin 1 is. It's also labeled on the board, the motherboard, so you can't go wrong. And like I said to you earlier, I think this one was this black one doesn't show up. This is the yeah, you can't see with the black, but when I take out the other part, you see this is idiot proof, so you can't go wrong. Okay, and this item that I'm holding right here is the CPU. This is one of the older ones. The information you can find on the CPU is printed on the top of the CPU. This one is the 1.9 gigahertz Pentium 4. So you take this and put this assemble this onto the motherboard. The first thing you want to know is the make sure you wearing your wrist strap when you're handling this. Also, you see this slit here, this notch here, all these bright little things that you see here are pins. Some of the new ones have smaller pins and they're really fragile in my opinion. But this one here is the older one, and you can see that every corner is the same except this slit. This one is to make sure you don't put in the CPU incorrectly, so you don't need to be afraid. So you put it wrong, it won't go in, and you shouldn't be afraid of it. But make sure you don't force it in. It should go in nicely. So let's go ahead and put that in right now. Okay, this is where the CPU goes onto the motherboard, and if I mentioned this for you, there's so many different type of sockets, and you need the right one to go into your for your CPU. And if you can see closely here, you see that little notch right there? That's exactly where it lines up with the CPU. So in order to put that in, you move this latch up here, and then check where your CPU lines up, and just kind of like drop it down and use the finger just to line it up, and if it's correct, it'll just fall right in. See, so it's right now it's right in, so you don't have to worry about it. And what you want to do next is close this latch and lock it up. Okay, so after that's installed, you need to put the heatsink onto your motherboard and fan so that it'll keep this CPU cool. The CPU runs really hot without it and it'll burn up. Okay, so the next item that we have here is our heatsink and fan for the CPU. Basically, most of the heatsink and CPU come as a combination. At least nowadays, in the past, they were much smaller and they were separate. But most of the ones I see now today are comes in a combo. And here's the connector that you have that goes into the CPU. And if you can see, there's a slit there, so you can't really screw it up. I don't know any ones that are built differently, so you really can't screw it up. It goes right into your motherboard with the slit right there. So with that said, let's put it on the CPU right now. But before that, though, I'd like to mention, you see these black spots here? There used to be what's called Thermo Gels, and what that does is allow the heat from the CPU to reach the heatsink a lot easier. I don't have it with me right now, but I'll show you an image of the thermo cooling gel, or I have some here, but as you can see it's dried up. It's probably a good idea to replace it since I don't have it, and just for the purpose of this video I'm just going to assemble it. And as long as I don't run it long, I think I should be fine, but I think I should get new gels for it. Okay, when you're putting the fan on, you want to make sure that you put it on carefully, because if not, sometimes this latch might come off and the CPU might go out of its place, and you might get an error when you try to boot the system up. So when you want to put that down, you want to be careful. Some fans are easier to attach, some are harder. So just be careful. Make sure you don't force anything, because this CPU would pop up. It happened to me once, and then it gave me an error. Lucky it didn't do anything to the CPU. So with that said, let's go ahead and do it. You just slowly place it on top. I can't see with this camera in front of me, but yeah, so make sure it fits in nicely. And then what you do is you just push the lever here so that it will, each fan is different, so even if I show you this, it will be different with the other fan. So you would push it in, so it would latch in. Okay, now that it's in, it already hooks up to that little piece right there. There's 4 of them on each side, 2 on each side, so it's 4 total. Once it latch on it, what you do is you put this one here, you pull this latch so that it will go on, it will, snap and hold it in securely. So right now I can just pick this up right now because it's securely tightened. So with that, basically your CPU, your heatsink, and your fan is already installed. The next item we want to move to is the memory. So the memory goes here, and as I mentioned in the previous video, you can look at these slit here. There's only one slit for each one of them, and so it uses a different type of memory. Some slits are located here, some might have 2 slits. So your motherboard manual should tell you what type of memory that you use. And so let's go ahead and install that right now. To be honest, I don't know just by looking at what type of memory it is, because I don't bother with that. But look at the CPU. The motherboard manual, and they'll tell you. Okay, here's the memory, and there's usually labels on the memory to tell you what size they are and what type of memory they are. There's a brand name as well, and there's that slit that I'm talking about right there. From the you can see that slit right there. So yeah, there's not much to the memory to talk about, so let's just put it in. Yeah, so before you install the memory, leave it in the anti-static bag, because if you ask me, in my opinion, the memory is the most fragile part for ESD damage. So what you do is you match it with the slit right there, and then you kind of put it in the, I don't know if I can do it close. You put it in the rail, and then you also put it on this side of the rail. Make sure it lined up correctly. So after it lined up correctly, you can see this tab here, and then there's also this tab here on this side. What you want to do is evenly push down on it, and after you put it down, it will just snap in. But I don't have a surface for the pressure, so I'm just gonna put down my camera and just push it in. Once you put it in, it will latch on. Okay, so I had the memory put in, but I don't have a hard surface right now, so it's kind of hard for me to show. But just basically, just use 2 fingers in here. Just make sure it's even. You don't want to push on just one side because you might be off on the other one. So just push on 2 fingers, and it'll go in nicely, and then this thing latches in. If not, you'll have it like this. So with that, it's secured. Make sure the memory's in firm, because if not, it can give you error when you boot up for the first time or so. And I'm not sure if it would damage it or not, but so far I never had that happen. So after that, you're pretty much ready to install it onto your motherboard. To your case. But what you want to do is you want to check all the settings. These are all your features that is for your motherboard, and this back here there's some too. And you check with the manual to see what type of setting. If you don't know what they are, look it up, and you still don't understand it, most likely is something that you might not use, or you could probably keep it at default. And if I remember correctly, when I did this board, I think this one here is for the USB and all that stuff, and graphics. And here is probably the setting for your CPU. So you match the setting for your CPU. I'm going to show you a manual just before I install all the cables and set the jumpers. And like these pin here is what you connect to your cases, and this one is for these 3 are for the USB. And the reason why I know is sometimes you can see the labels on here, but the best way to do is check with the motherboard manual. And if you're smart and if you can't see it very well, the smartest thing to do is nowadays there's high definition cameras, high resolution cameras. I would take a picture of it and zoom in. I mean, I have bad eyes. In the past, I used magnifying glass to look at these, but now I just take a photo of it and just zoom in and I can see it real clearly. So before I install this, I'm going to show you the manual that I downloaded, and the way you would find out your manual is by the model and the brand of the board. If you look at the motherboard right here, you can see this is the Asus brand, and then if you look down here, you can tell that the model number is P4B266 with the rev version 2.01. I think you just look at the model number and you should be fine. Most of the time, it's just this version might be, they might add some features and stuff like that. So let's go to the online manual that I downloaded. Basically, you just Google, and a lot of times you can find it. Okay, so this is the manual that I downloaded from the website. It was easy search because most, you can look for most motherboard information online fairly easily. I never had an issue finding one. So if you go down your guide or manual, you can go check out the settings and all that, and basically you can look at the content, or if not, you can scroll down and get to where you want to find the pin settings. Okay, so here's the page that lists all the parts and tell you what type of connections and all that that you have. So this page, for example, shows you the fan connections, where it's located at. And okay, this is the main one that I'd like to show you is, like I mentioned earlier, they'll tell you the speaker connection, which one's your 5 volts, your power switch and all that stuff. And onto your cable, there's also printings on there that show you which cable they are, so you know which ones. And you can't go make a mistake unless you're not careful and you put in the wrong pin. But if you look match the pins exactly, you should be fine. And here's another one that shows you the different auxiliary connection that you have. So basically, I guess you just go through the whole manual and bit by bit to see all the different features it has, the connections and how it's used, and you should be fine. So this is one way where you can get all this information. So Google it, and you should be able to find everything in your manual. Okay, so after checking with the motherboard manual, we know that the fan can be connected to one of these fan connectors. Even says it on the board itself. So like I said, there's a slit so you won't screw up. Just stick that in there. So looking at this now, I can see that I pretty much have everything that I wanted to go on there. I can actually put that into the case right now. But if you pick up an old board, you make sure you want to check that this one has enough the battery life to keep all the settings for your BIOS, or some of them might call it CMOS BIOS. So mine's good, so I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna put it back in the case. But I'm gonna do all the connections outside of the case, just for the purpose of showing you the connections and all that stuff. But I'll show you where or how you can assemble all the stands so that you can put your motherboard on. Okay, so now looking at the case, most of you would know that this is where your motherboard goes. So what you want to do is clear up all the space that you need so that you can see where your motherboard fits in. First thing I want to show you are there are holes where the screws can go, like for example right here, and then there's another one right here, and there's another one right here, And there's different places where the holes are, so you can just lift it up and see where the holes are. And what you want to do is you want to screw the standoff. Let me show you an example of a standoff. This is actually one that is already on there. Here's a standoff. Let's see if you can see this clearly. Yeah, so you can. What you do is you line up your motherboard where the holes are, and there's several holes, and a lot of times they're pretty much universal. So you line up the holes to see where these your motherboard holes lined up, and then after you get all the stand up where they need to be, you just basically screw it down, and then screw it down tight. And then basically the motherboard just fits in. It just fits in. And there it goes. And then after that, you just use your screws to screw down where all the standoffs are, where all the holes are, and then you'll be fine. And then the motherboard should be tight. Let me take that out because I'm going to show you the connections before I actually screw them down. Actually, follow this step and put it back in and screw it, connecting all the cables and everything. But I like to take it out so that I can show you the connection outside. This way you can see it a lot better. Well, actually, before I show you the connection, you actually have this so-called plate. And this plate goes on the back of your motherboard. Let me see if I can put this back on. So let me stand the motherboard this way. Okay, so basically what it does is there's a face plate that goes like this to fit in. This is not the exact one for it. As you can see, the holes are not right for it because this one belongs to another motherboard. Sometimes when you buy the board, it comes with it actually comes with this plate. It's a one that you can attach to your case. I didn't have one for this board because I picked it up free from my friend, and this other plate came from another one that I picked up. So if you were to, before you install the motherboard, you need to put this on, and I'm going to show you that right now. So looking in the back of the motherboard, the case, you just put the face plate on it. It will just snap on. And I'm not sure if it's this face plate is critical or not. I've seen people use it without it, and I'm using it without it too. But yeah, I don't know how important this face plate is because I've seen some people do without it, and so this is the only one that I have that is without it. But I'm not sure if it has to do with anything with the grounding of certain parts of the connectors or not, because as you can see here, this plate just actually touches the connectors outside, so on the inside, and I'm not sure if it serves as a grounding purpose or it's just cosmetic and make it nice. So far, I guess if you don't touch it too much, you'll be fine. I've seen a lot of people do it without have it installed without these, and you'll see that later after I have it done that it doesn't look as nice, but it probably wouldn't matter too much because you might get the grounding through the case anyway. Okay, so I don't know if I'm going overboard because basically I was gonna go for a basic tutorial on how to have all the parts of the computer so that you don't have to be scared of it, but I'm going into details with the pins and everything. What those of you who bought the computer, they should already be set correctly, unless you bought something that someone assembled and they didn't know how. So anyway, so don't worry too much about this. So the first thing I want to do, after I get the board into the case, I wanted to hook up the power supply to give power to the motherboard. And basically I would do is hook it up to here. They're all notched certain way, so you don't have to worry about making a mistake. So there's the power to the motherboard. It's a little bit short. So the next thing you will need is, let me show you how to connect like the video card if you're using external video card. Yeah, this board doesn't have a video card, so this is one type of video card. You can see there's a VGA connection there. So this one, this type of connection, I don't know what the name. I think it's AGP, whatever. I don't really care about the name. It's just as long as I know what type of board, one that they require, and I just buy the board that fits it. So it'll go right here, and basically just push down and it will snap on. And I'll show you later on after I put it in the case. Right now I'm just showing where it goes, just in case it's hard to show you later on. So I will put it in this slot. And then the next one I have is the Ethernet. This is your LAN card. So you can see your RJ45 connection right there. And this is the Ethernet, and it has I think it's called PCI connections. I think this one is not the this is the original PCI, and it could go in. As you can see, all the slots here are the same. It can basically go in anywhere you like, however you want to sort them. The other cards can go for your sound card and all that stuff. If you don't want to use your onboard sound, you can have sound cards and anything that has a PCI connection. So this one I'm gonna put it here after I put it in the case. So you could just choose any one you want. It really doesn't matter as long as the connector is the right one. If it's not right, it won't fit anyway, at least so far that I know of. So with all the cards that is needed for this board that I'm installing, those were the two cards go. So now that you have the fan in, you have the power connection in, and now with this, next one is the hard data cable. So with that data cable, you can see here's the IDE connection. There's two of them. One was the primary and one is the secondary. It's labeled right here. I don't know if you can see it, but one of them is a primary and one of them is a secondary. This black one here is a secondary. As you can see, it's a secondary there. So whichever one you choose is fine. You just need to, and there's a notch here, so you don't have to worry about screwing it up. Like I said before, there's pin ones with this pink strip here, and you look at the board, they will label on the board where pin 1 is, and so you can connect that. Like this older one, you can screw up because there's no slot. With the newer ones, like I said, there's a slit and there's a notch here, so you can see that little slit there. It goes in there. So I'm gonna put it in here. And I don't remember what the color code, whether it's for primary or for one of the faster bus. I believe it was. It hasn't been a while since I did it, but I remember going from the older one, and then when they get to the new one, it was a faster bus, I believe, and they were using different type of cable for the speed and everything. So this one is going with the blue. It doesn't need to, but like I said, if you don't have the right cable, it's gonna go slower, I believe. I think this one is the case. I haven't followed it for a long time. And the other cable that I showed you earlier about the SATA, this is the other type of connection for your hard drive, but this board doesn't have it. This is an older board. It doesn't have it, and so I'm not going to show that here right now. So with that said, you just need to, it's not reaching, a little bit closer. I'm sorry. You can hook that on there. I guess you got the idea. So after I put in the motherboard, that's how I'm going to do it. But the main part that I need to show you, once it's out here, let me disconnect the power right now just so it can get better. You also have connections that come from your case. And basically that is, if you have a USB, external USB, not the built-in one, external USB, it connects onto your board. A lot of times, these modern boards have a lot of USB connection to it because they use a lot of USB type. And on the cable, you can see, I don't know if I can get there. Yeah, here it goes. Not bright enough. You can see where it says VCC and then GND. GND stands for ground. That labels all your pin here. So if you match that up to your board, you can connect it to it. Like for example, this is one of the USB. If I look at the board and look at the manual to see if this match up, I could just connect that there. I'm not going to show you here because I can barely see, and you won't be able to see it anyway. So basically you look at the pin and you match that up and where it goes. And this is for USB, and on the board it'll say USB as well. And then the other main ones that you need is the power connection, and then you could go by the color. And then there's also a notch. You won't be able to see it. It's kind of like an edge on there that says this is ground pin or whatever. So you'll know where it goes onto the board, matching with the manual and on the board, and you should be fine. So with that said, I'm going to connect all these back in once I have the board inside the case. So I'll get to that in a moment. Sorry I can't show you how it really goes in. You won't be able to see it anyway because like I said, look at the manual and they will tell you exactly where it goes. So you should be able to figure that part out. So all these settings that I got, the switches for the CPU and everything, can default correctly with the CPU, because I think the CPU and the motherboard came as a combo. They sold in the combo. So if you bought it separately, you may want to change some of these settings here according to your CPU for the clocks and stuff like that. And then some of them might have motherboard frequency settings and all that stuff too for the bus and everything. And then there's some USB setting here and stuff like that. And this is the connector for your audio that comes out of your CD-ROM. I'm not going to show that because I don't have that cable, and I don't use that anyway. So I think that's about it. So let's put it together, and I'll show you the finished product after this. Okay, so now I have the board inside, and like I said, I place it on the standoff, and then have the screws, all the screws with the holes screwed on, and then I also have the all the connections here hooked up according to the manual. And at this point you can put in your graphics card and all that stuff. So here's the graphics card. Place that in there. Align it. Once it's aligned, just push in, and it should snap right in. And there it goes. And you just need to put one screw there, just like this. These are just placeholders. You put a screw there. And then my next card would be my network card. And then also put a screw here, just like this, to hold it down. You don't want it to pop out while it's in use. Okay, now what we have left is just the hard data Ide connectors. Here's the frame. That's a primary one for the hard drive. And then you also have your secondary for your CD-ROM. So make sure the, like I mentioned before, the pin 1 goes here, because there's I can't show you that. Yeah, there you go. It shows pin 1. You can see right there. And then after you're done with that, you have the power connectors that goes into your motherboard. And you see that notch there? This one hooks up to there. You can't go wrong with this because the holes are different shapes and stuff. So if you put it in incorrectly, it won't fit. And wait, you can see it snap, and that's all there is. And then after that, you have the power connectors to your hard drive and the power connectors to your CD-ROM. And as you can see, the shape is also the same. So you just need to align the shape correctly. You see this rounded edge? It'll just go inside pick the one that you want where your cable fits comfortably, and just connect that to your hard drive. Make sure it's all the way in, and then pick another one to connect to your CD-ROM. And after that, you're done. So basically, at this point, you're pretty much done. You just need to put the case back together. You might want to do that last until you're sure that your system is good. You don't have to tighten the screw for the case yet. But here's the last thing I need to show you, though. There's a fan on your case, and you got to give power to that. And this one came with this kind of connector. So what you do is you just choose one of these and choose a male connector that connects into this female power supply, and just basically select one of them and just plug that in. Yeah, it just fit in. I can't do this with one hand, so I'll put this in and then I'll show you how it goes. The last thing I'd like to talk about really is after you have all the cables connected together, you want to tie it with maybe plastic tie wrap. This way you don't want to use anything metal that will short out your board or anything. You want to tie this up, tie all the cables nicely and organize it nicely. So this way it doesn't get yanked accidentally and it'll come off, or and also you don't want it to destruct your fan or anything like that. You want to leave room for your for all the hot air to circulate and exit your case. Otherwise it gets pretty hot inside and it could damage your system. So as you can see here, I tied the cables up really nicely, so this way it has room for the air to circulate. And let me put that on and put the case back on, and then in the next video you'll see the installation, actually the boot up first to see if everything works, and the installation of the software. Actually before that I'll show you how to connect the back too, just in case some of you might be afraid of connecting the connectors in the back. Okay, so before I close up the case, I just want to let you guys know that when you first assemble any electronic stuff, you might not want to close up your case just yet, because unless you don't have room, but you want to leave it open, because initially when you first power it up, you want to do what they call a smoke test. And I don't know who came up with that name, but I guess basically what it is you want to plug it in to see if anything, if you might have connected something wrong, and it might burn up the board. And if that's the case, you want to save as much part as possible by unplugging whatever once you catch anything smoking. I did have that happen once when I was installing a floppy drive, one of those old floppy drives. It was kind of dumb because I don't really need it. The fact that it's there, I didn't want to have a slot in the computer case, and the fact that the floppy's not working, so I plugged it in. And it's not one of those where it's shaped a certain way or notched a certain way so that you don't make mistakes. Some floppy drives are, but that particular one I had wasn't. So I was one pin off, and it ended up distributing the power to a different location. It ended up smoking not only the drive itself, but because the fact that I had it closed up, it took me longer to realize it. And the next thing you know, it also damaged my power supply. So when you first have it on, it's a good idea for you to leave the case open so you can observe if anything is wrong. Sometimes you can boot it up and everything looks like it's working. It's only one item that's not working, but still, a lot of times they give you an indication with a beep or something like that, but sometimes it doesn't. Like in that case that I had, it didn't, and I ended up smoking the floppy drive and the power supply. So you want to be very careful. I made that mistake because I was I thought I was a pro and ended up going real fast, and didn't double check or anything. But in this case I think I have it fairly safe, so I'm just gonna put that close up the case right now. Well, I'm sorry, I just have one more thing. So just in case if you had to troubleshoot anything, maybe you thought maybe the connector wasn't wrong, I think in the older board it's a lot quicker. With the newer board, sometimes even though you unplug the computer, the power is still at the board, so you want to drain out the power, because if not, let's say for example you're troubleshooting a memory error, and you unplugged it and you took the memory stick out, you will, this is very important because you would damage anything that you take out while there's still power to it, even though you unplugged it, because it takes a while for the power to go away. And usually there's a light on the most board. There's a light, and in this case, it's in there. Let me see if I can get a flashlight to show you this. Is that red? I don't know if you can see it. That red LED right there. Yeah, right there, the red LED to show you there's power. But even though that's off, if you really want to be careful, what you want to do is you want to hold on to the power button for a few seconds. This way you can drain all the power before you remove any hardware. There's also another, on most power supply, there's also a switch here, like I mentioned earlier, the on and off switch, the open and close switch. You can switch that open and still also push the power button, just to make sure. You want to be real safe. Like I said, I know a lot of people that damage their memory, especially the memory when they're troubleshooting, and they thought they unplugged it, but really there's still power to it. So you want to be real careful at that point. So just let you know in case you're removing something, and don't be in a hurry. Let the power go away first before you do anything. Unplug it. Make sure that LED light's gone away. Push the power button. Well, make sure you unplug and then push the power button for a while to let the power drain away first. Okay, so now here's the type of connector that you need. First, here's my mouse. I think it's color coded. The mouse goes here, and make sure the pin is correct. There's a little black notch that you can see in there, so you can't really screw it up. And then the next one we have is another PS2 connector for the keyboard, again with that notch right there, if you can see it. Okay, as you can see, I mentioned I didn't have any faceplate, so it looked kind of ugly, but it's still okay. And then you also have the RJ45 connectors that goes into your network card. And then I plan to have a wireless connection, so I'll also have a wireless adapter. And this wireless adapter has a USB connection to it, so I'm going to stick it into one of the USB connectors located right here. And before you plug in though, you can see there's a white tab right there, and that's probably considered the male part, and there's a one that is empty, is considered the female side of it. And that's how I call it, but you want to line that correctly. I know some people that just line up with the other one and they just try to jam it in and end up breaking this, so you want to be careful. You see in here there's a black slit right there, so you just go opposite of that, so it'll just go in. So after you're done, you can also connect your audio cable, but that's not important right now. So next thing you want to connect is your video, so you can see. Make sure it's lined up correctly. Screw it on. And then you also have your other one parallel for your cable, printers and all that, or another USB for your printer, so depending on whatever one you want to use. And then the last thing you want to put in is your power. So here I go, I have my power in. With that, I can turn this on right now. Just switch this here, and you can see the power's on. And after that, you just need to boot that up and see if the hardware work, and then install your OS, which stands for operating system, and that will be in the next video. So I'll see you then.